Okay. I'll do it now. I was waiting a little bit so that we had everybody on that we could, but why don't we go around the room and everybody tell us who you are. I'm Mike Tomey. I'm with the MPC.
Joe DeVito, Town of Fort Royal Mayor.
Jerry Ashmore, Town Councilman, Fort Royal Campbell, School Board, Beaufort County School Board.
Alice Howard, District 4, Beaufort County Council.
And Mitch Mitchell, City of Beaufort Council member.
Y'all Glover, District 3, County Council.
I'm Jason Hencher. I'm a Ladies Island resident.
Chuck Newton, Sea Island Coalition.
Robert Merchant, Beaufort County Planning and Zoning.
Libby Anderson, Beaufort County.
Jesse White, Coastal Conservation League.
Joe Mack, Beaufort Trailblazers for Trails and Parks.
Thank you very much. And online? You're on mute, I think. Do you control mute?
I don't, they do.
They do.
There you go.
This time.
Mike, we saw your lips moving. Ed?
I'm wondering if our sound is off.
I think our sound is off.
Okay, so why don't we just announce who's on?
Ed Pappas, and your eyes are better than mine.
So we got Ed Pappas, Stephen Murray, and didn't I see Lolita Watson,
Mike McPhee.
Mike McPhee,
Stephanie too.
and Stephanie is on there.
Okay.
Guys, they're trying to fix the sound. We can't hear you. Hopefully you can hear us. Can we get a thumbs up from somebody saying you can hear us? Good, so they can hear us. Thank you. No? It's on. We think it's on this end. They're trying to fix it. You think by now we know how to do this virtual stuff?
Okay.
Every time it's like the first time we've done it.
Well, it's a computer. Every time you start it, you're not really sure what it's going to do. You know, that's the first thing you got to understand with a computer.
Thank you.
Every time you start it, we're never sure what it's going to do.
Mike, let us know when you can hear us.
He can hear us. We can't hear him.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
That's
There it is.
Thank you, sir.
Say it again, Mike.
I said I can hear you fine.
And we can hear.
We can hear you finally.
Okay.
Very good.
And we'll move to the first item on the agenda here is the Ladies Island Village Center Task Force presentation. And we'll wait to load that up.
We did citizen comments. Did you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know the distraction.
Okay, we've done that.
Thank you. Okay, the Ladies Island Village Center Task Force. The Ladies Island Village Center is important to everybody. It seems to have made it into it. No, those are
Not for this?
no, sorry.
Is that back row?
It's made it into all the comp plans, and so it's obviously a very important issue for all of us. Go to the next slide. We started out with the dissolution of the Northern Regional Plan Implementation Committee, and then we did a mandate for the Ladies Island Village Center Task Force. And in general, we approved that in our last meeting. I think some copies were sent out again so that you could review them. But basically, it maintains itself in compliance with the Ladies Island plan and moves forward with additional detail. Next slide.
Mr. Chairman, can you ask Chris to share the slides with us on Zoom?
I know.
We're not getting the shared screen.
Apologies.
They're trying now.
Oops.
That wasn't sent out.
It was not sent out.
That map wasn't sent out. I got everything else, not the map.
No, the presentation was not sent out. That's part of the presentation.
Gotcha.
It's just having.
Thank you. We can see them now.
Can you? No. But we can't. So let's say.
Abracadabra.
So you doing? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Are you around Monday?
Fiber optics on here.
No.
I'm around Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday. Okay.
They started all the way down to grade. They didn't start back to certain sections. We just need to follow them.
Gotta love technology.
You have to.
Gerald called me and told me, Michelle,
I'm surprised, actually, they weren't sure what was going on, so they called me.
yeah,
But it's
that's good, that's good, that's good.
Yeah.
Jared did a nice
Neighbors are
job.
watching.
Yeah, we can.
Very appreciative.
Oh,
Can everyone see at home and then?
Short, sweet.
Mike, can you still see it? Steven, can you see it?
Appreciate that.
I can see it.
It's on here. It's on here. It's small. It's on.
All right,
Concise.
thank you. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, and then at the end, everybody can ask whatever questions you have. But many of the people have already been through this. I've presented it to people individually. So let's move to the next slide. This slide is kind of where we started. We took a look at what the Ladies Island plan was from a zoning standpoint. And at the top left, you see is where the bridge is, and then that larger intersection there is the Publix intersection. You can see the zonings that are circled are city. The uncircled zones then are county. So it's a real mixture of a lot of different zones and different responsibilities for the county and the city. Next slide, please. Wanted to let you know the task force is made up of, and I'll just run through it here, Paul Somerville, Ed Pappas, Chuck Newton, Jason Hincher, Jesse White, Alan Patterson. Noah joined later on. Linda Bridges was on earlier. And then from a staff standpoint, there's David Pritchard, Dan Frazier, Rob Merchant. Jared kind of was in and out a little bit, Brittany Fields and Jennifer Bragg. So from the task force standpoint, we had a good representation back when when we were having our meetings here. It was about the time that the task force approved moving this forward to the next steps. Since then, a list of people that have reviewed it, and you can see the check marks of those that have an affirmative of moving this forward to the next steps. We've got Graham Trask, the Grays, Jason Hincher, Merritt Patterson. I've spoken with Sam, but I haven't really reviewed it with him. Tom Daniels, David Gaskew, Steve Andrews, Ed Allen, Chris Butler, Alan Patterson. And so those are most of the major property owners along 21. Town officials that we've reviewed this with have been Alice Howard, Stephen Murray, Mike McPhee, Joe DeVito, Noah, Dick Stewart, York Glover, Paul Somerville, and then Stephanie Rossi and Mary Lou Franzen. And you'll see why they're included, because there is a transportation element that is a part of this. But we've gotten very positive responses to the presentation that we have. Next slide. Now, one of the objects of taking a look at this for the task force was to try and reduce traffic on 21 through other means, as well as increase parking and accessibility. So what this vision plan does is it shows the movement of the new development of properties. So the shopping centers, as an example, they would move towards 21, which would then put parking behind, and through interconnectivity between those parking elements and or a roadway system that connects all of those, there will be access to all those properties. So what that does is you're removing the need for accessibility off of 21, because the shops are going to be moving towards 21 in large part. So what we've done is, you can see here that we have a roadway, the access roadway system that is already underway under the penny tax. If you look at Meridian on the left with the stoplight that will move to Meridian, and then the other connecting roadways from Gay that is over on your right, with a stoplight there that will go across and connect to the school. And then that Gay Drive turns into Hazel Farms and then to Jericho. That will also come up and connect up in between the two shopping centers where the roadway already exists. The stoplight that is at Sunset there, that was an earlier placement of a stoplight. We believe now, based on the information I've gotten from engineering, that will move down.
Pardon me, do you have a pointer that you can point to?
I don't have a pointer.
You're not familiar with those streets, man?
No, I don't exactly.
That's in my district. I got that.
Okay, so here you've got Meridian. You've got Yeoman's Road that comes across, and it is going to continue with new coming down here to a stoplight intersection for Hazel Farms, and Hazel Farms will turn into Gay. Gay Drive will come down with a stoplight and going across. Sunset was going to have a stoplight here, but it looks like that's not going to happen. It'll move down to Yeoman's. Now, in talking with the property owners along here, they feel as if a stoplight at Yeoman's is probably a much better opportunity for them, and it will help. That will take traffic that's on 21 that wants to do shopping here with the buildings moving forward. They'll be able to have a larger exit entrance here, come in behind on this secondary road and access parking, and then access these shops from behind. Leaving that area there, they can stay on Yeoman's and come across and come down to this stoplight intersection here with Hazel Farms. We've concentrated most of our effort in this quadrant so far. We'd be looking to a consultant to help us look at land use as it relates to these other sections. I think there are definitely opportunities on the opposite side of the road with discussions with the property owners there that something similar could happen with that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
We had a discussion with, I can't remember her name, I think one of the consultants.
From engineering.
Yeah, some months ago. And there was some concern about the school, Beaufort High School, because of the traffic. And the bus coming from St. Helena and the bus coming from Beaufort. We never got an answer. They gonna handle it.
Well, what I want to emphasize here is this task force is working within the parameters of the access road system. We don't have, we're listening to them and coordinating with them, but we are completely separate from those activities. So their decisions about what this access road and 21 are doing are independent of what we're doing. We're trying to operate and look at the development of a master plan within the context of what they're actually doing. Primarily, though, I think the school is looking at the exit from Yeoman's coming back out here to the another light that they don't have to get back onto 21.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions on that?
Mike, let me just ask, because you're not coming all the way down to the Walmart. Is that a reason why you're not showing anything there?
Well, there are some penny tax stuff happening at the airport, as you well know, but I haven't shown that on that. The master plan, it was for the village center, and so you can see by this outline that we've confined it to that area. Now, it is possible that can and should expand beyond that, but we were focusing on just that central area for right now.
Yeah, in planning, I would love to see, some thoughts given to beyond that, particularly to the Walmart, because that's where it stops and starts for us.
Yes.
Coming off of St. Helena.
Yes.
Yeah, it stops and starts right there. So just want to make sure we include it in that area for planning purposes as traffic flows.
Well, it's good that you brought that up, because in addition to that, when you take a look at what this access road is going to do, it's going to create some development opportunities that I think people will be taking advantage of. So it's going to be important to take a look at land use and then as a response to land use zoning.
Can you point out for everyone's where Crystal Lake is? Some people.
Crystal Lake is right here.
Yeah.
And
make sure everybody knows that's.
Yeah, right now Yeoman's comes up, and it will be a new roadway system that connects up to a light here, straight across from Hazel Farms. Hazel Farms right now is kind of a dirt road right there at that end. But that does create a good circulation system from Meridian all the way around. It allows you to get, not use this intersection here, the primary intersection, but instead access around that. I think with the population growth on Ladies Island, that's going to be extremely important. Can I have the next slide, please? That brings us to talking about transportation. And one of the things that I was started to look at as we were taking a look at the master planning efforts was that a transportation system needed to be a part of what we're trying to accomplish. So in taking a look at that, and then that brings up why we were talking with Stephanie Rossi and Mary Lou, is I started to have some conversations with them in Palmetto Breeze. Now, from information from them, there's been studies done for transportation north of the Broad, but there hasn't been anything, or south of the Broad, but not anything north of the Broad for many, many years. So they're looking at grants and trying to get a study done for our area in particular. What I looked at here was the possibility of a trolley system that would go from Beaufort down here to Port Royal, up to the Ladies Island Village Center, and back to Beaufort. This would be a triangle, and there'd be obviously stops along there, but that would be a trolley system that could be used that would transport everybody, would give you better access to all the amenities in each one of those areas, especially as Port Royal gets developed more with the port, as well as the village center. It gives you better access to the restaurants and the shops. It also, the other piece of this that you're seeing here is a feeder system that comes into that loop. Now, Palmetto Breeze already does have some feeder systems, but it would be more formalized where you would have, as an example, maybe somewhere out there at Well Branch, a parking area where people could, from the Gullah Geechee and other lower income areas, could come park, get on a bus, come into the loop system, and then have access to the trolley for the entire loop system. That same thing could happen out at the apartments before you go over 170. Same thing at Paris Island and other locations. I'm not trying to pinpoint locations at this point. I'm just saying there's opportunities in a number of areas where that could happen. What does that do? Especially now, people coming in from outside the city would save on gas. They wouldn't have to pay parking, and it would give them access here so that if they were working in any of these areas or at the hospital, if they wanted to go out for lunch, they could get on a trolley, or if they just wanted to visit some shops or something, they could go to these other areas and be back at their workplace. It looks like probably a loop would be anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes, and in just brainstorming a little bit with Mary Lou, we were thinking that maybe two trolleys could make that happen. The other thing that it does is when we have visitors coming in, they're staying at hotels and they're staying at VRBOs, Airbnbs, or whatever they're doing, or family. They can leave their car in place where they are, get on this trolley system and use that. It affords them easier access to things. It also reduces the traffic problem that we have, and it reduces the amount of parking that we are currently in very much need of in these core areas. So I think it does a lot for us across the board. Any questions?
No, I'm just gonna make a comment again, Mike. When you talk about that loop in the Ladies Island Center, if you can connect it to the Walmart for us.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That's so essential and stuff, because you know, when I was growing up before the McTier Bridge, as a child, to get a ride home, I had to be at the foot of the bridge on Bay Street at a certain time to catch a ride home. Right now, the Walmart becomes that area. If we can get to the Walmart one way or the other, we can get home.
Yes, that's exactly right. And the Ladies Island Village Center, actually, the system here would probably encompass that. Because we had a lot of comments from people that lived in apartments outside of the city. They had no way to collect groceries and get back home. You know, a lot of people don't have cars, and so they get to places from other people that they can get rides with. And that's why it would help to facilitate with these areas here for a general pickup. Also, you could have a larger bus that has a scheduled run, could probably carry more people rather than the smaller vehicles that they use a lot going out to those areas.
And my comment was going to be similar to Councilman Glover's. The same would apply out at that Robert Smalls Paris Island Gateway intersection where the Walmart is there in Burton.
Okay.
You know, whether it's a feeder or in the loop, but you know, that's kind of a center point.
Okay.
Area too.
And that's very good. And I'll talk about that in a minute under our next steps, because I've been continuing some conversation. I want to take that to the next level, I hope, if y'all decide you want to do that. The other thing that I was looking at, one of the comments that came out of our meetings for our comprehensive plan was meeting with the Gullah Geechee and other communities, that there's no central organizational point for them to have a place to share information about those communities and access from that to other places. So a thought process I had was there might be a center for the Gullah Geechee community, maybe Green Street Gym, maybe the Black Chamber of Commerce are two possible locations that some like, but something that would work with so that there could be a central location that a bus at certain times, along with the information they're giving about Penn Center and Four Corners, is that they'd be able to catch that transportation and go out to Penn Center and Four Corners. We got a lot of visitors that come into the community that want to get education about those areas, as well as the Northwest area. So I think there's opportunity to help develop that from a visitor standpoint as well as a local standpoint. It also provides the ability that people out here farther out on the island could use that same bus system to come into town and get access into the loop system.
One other suggestion with the loop system, the Paris Island Gateway that cuts up through,
Yes.
that needs to be added on this side when you're going forward. Up more, it's more to your
Back to the, right there, right there, remember?
That's what.
because there's a lot of lower income people and people.
Oh, yes,
that park.
yes, yes.
And they walk the sidewalks there and
Right.
they are
That's, like I said, that's something that's got to be developed because I think there's a lot of need out there. I think we can help satisfy that need, but there are probably other locations
that road is
and
amazing.
stops.
Yeah.
Talking about stops in those road areas, the other thing that's happening is there's a study being done on the connector coming out across from the Paris Island up, and then there's also the Rebo Road study that's being done. And we need to be doing this now because it needs to happen in concert with those. So that I know Palmetto Breeze wants to have bus pull-offs. Maybe there's shelters or something else, but all that needs to be developed as part of this. So I think that these two actually, the development of the village center along with this, we got the development of the Port Royal Ports area going on, and then the continuing work that the city of Beaufort has going on. I think they all intertwine together, and maybe there's different funding sources for all of that we can capture at the same time. Next slide.
Before you go on.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me, if I might, one of the things that's in the very early stages, but it's gaining quick momentum, is an expanded ferry service here in this region with the city of Savannah and Chatham County. So the trolley system would work very well in that particular situation because we're talking about working with Savannah to provide ferry services for people that might be in Savannah that could come up to Port Royal, that could come into the city of Beaufort, that could potentially dock somewhere out in St. Helena for those that may want to come up and see the Penn Center and then head back to wherever they're staying in Savannah and vice versa. We might have people here that are staying here that might want to go into Savannah. I'm going down in a few minutes to meet with a group in Savannah and the chairman of the county council to discuss that prospect of going. So it's in the very early stages, but there's a lot of support and momentum for it right now. So
That's great. It plays into this whole networking that we're doing now of all these elements. So go on to the next.
Before you go there,
Okay.
one of the comments I want to make on that again, at some point in time, and they've talked about it early on before COVID, there's no discussion since then, but I think Hunting Island State Park is going to come back to the table to talk about some kind of transportation system there because of parking. And you know, and I think if council have to look at the possibility of putting in parking stations, you know, for that and stuff, I think it's really gonna enhance that area and stuff. But at some point in time, we need to see how that would work and how that would flow with this right here.
Yeah.
I really love to see that trolley system develop and connectivity with St. Helena, and if I have to use Hunting Island, I will do so.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm not sure how that'll work, but that's, we're at the very beginning of this, really starting to talk about it. That's great. I'll kind of add that into our thought process. And by the way, when we talk about the task force, I kept the task force fairly small, wanted it representative of all the different communities. However, that was because of COVID. If people are wanting to participate as part of the task force as we move forward, let me know. We can always use some input from people. So go to the next slide. What I did here was we have taken the city of Beaufort and the county areas and shown what the zoning requirements are in those. And then taking a straw man here of the Ladies Island Village Center and redefining what the zoning characteristics would want to be for that. So we started that process. Go to the next slide. We've also done an overlay system. We don't know if we're going to try and operate within the context of the existing zones, or if we go to an overlay system. There's proponents of both, and we'll get to that, I think, as we move through the process. But that's something else. It's a document, it's a 20-page document that I've already created as a first draft. Next slide. Thank you, sir.
See ya.
So that takes us to next steps. And this is where I'd like to have a motion coming out of here. The first is a consultant RFP. Now, I've already put together a draft RFP. I have a copy of it here, but it's a draft RFP. The county already has it in their possession. The city has it in their possession. And I've gotten some comments from the county. I'll get comments, put those back into it, and then put this thing back out. Quite frankly, I didn't give anything to the town, but that's something I guess we might consider. For right now, we have been just considering the village center impact for the county and the city. But there's a huge impact, obviously, with the town at the intersection of the other bridge. How we deal with that, I think, is a question that we all need to deal with. But moving forward with an RFP, the RFP is not the same as what we've done in the past. In the past, we included the access road system and connections to the access road system that were part of the RFP. We've pulled those pieces out because those are already being done as part of the penny, and reduced it down to what I think right now, based on what I've got, is the master planning and land use of the areas within the context of those access road systems.
And the RFP is not going to be part of the trolley system. That's going to be done separately.
No, that's two different.
I wouldn't mind seeing, like, the town wouldn't mind seeing it for informational purposes, but like, if the trolley system was going to be involved, we would want to be more involved in commenting. But without the trolley system, just for informational purposes of what you're looking for,
absolutely,
I think is all the town needs at this point.
Absolutely.
Because if you stay in that village core center, if you decide to expand out or go into transportation further out, then we would like to refer.
Well, and as we already have, we've got a seat there for you with the task force, so you'll be aware of everything that's going on, what we're doing. At the same time, the task force and staff for the city and the county will be moving forward with a zoning resolution, taking that zoning plan that I had up there just now, going through that and trying to make some decisions about what the zoning looks like, as well as fine-tuning the overlay system, and then working with the consultant to help them help us decide what the best direction is for those. And then what we need to do is put together a transportation study request letter. In speaking with Mary Lou, we need to have some formal or multiple formal letters that come from the city, the county, and the town saying that we really need to have this done. It's important to us and important to our development. And if we can get any senators or congressmen to additionally write a letter saying that it's important to us in the development of our community, those will be looked at probably in a better light than if we don't have anything.
I have a question about that. So this would be for the LOCOG to do that, because we have other avenues to do a transportation study. Is that, I mean, is that what your intent would be? Or
Well,
do they think they can get some grant money to do this study?
it's interesting. There's some new grant money that's been being made available. Mary Lou thought that there's some opportunities there. But yes, definitely through grants now.
But I mean, which agency are you talking about taking the lead on
Through the Fed,
locally?
coming through the feds, but I think it would be Stephanie and Mary Lou, but I'm not sure yet. We haven't had those detailed discussions.
Okay.
We just had the informal discussions. They were on board. They thought this was probably a great idea to do that transportation study and do the transportation. The information about 2 trolleys, but you'd have to have a third for a, maintenance kind of backup situation.
Because the county has, Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the county has decided to have 3 different transportation engineering firms on board that they can
Yes.
use.
Yeah, we're working on
I mean, not that we wouldn't want to use the LOCOG too, but I mean, we may have resources that we could.
Okay, well, that'd be great.
Yeah, they're kind of like on call as funding comes, but I think that's another option too.
Well, that'd be great. What I'd like to do is I'd like to stay in contact with Mary Lou, Stephanie, as well as then the county.
Jared, Flavix would be the one, yeah.
Okay, with
Yeah.
Jared. And then and try and coordinate those activities, what our needs are in order to move those all forward. And see if we can, we talk about low-income housing and facilitating that. Well, that's a little slower process, I think, than if we can get a transportation element that reaches out and brings in people from different areas of the county to participate in and facilitate the employment of these businesses that need it so bad. And with gas prices going up the way they are, parking, those are all impediments to people doing work. Along with that, I'm hoping that employers or larger employers might even purchase some tickets for their employees to ride that transportation and not clog up our system with all those additional cars. I know the area I'm in is completely packed with people that park there that work downtown because it's free parking for the most part.
I don't disagree with that.
If we have other options for them, I think that would be great. So those are what the next steps are. And I would ask NERPIC to, if they want to have some discussion or a motion that comes out of that towards moving this forward, I would appreciate it. The task force would appreciate it. And we have our hands full moving forward with the rest of the things that need to be done. That's it.
Mike, I know first of all, you took a lot of this on yourself, and thank you for getting it to this point. The whole task force and bringing it back to us. So would you want a single motion, or do you want to take the elements, those 3 elements separately? I mean, I guess that's kind of a question. Is there a little, sorry, thinking out. We could just do a motion just to move it to the next step and let the task force then break up the elements. So they're gonna break up into 3 different elements, right? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Can you put those back up again?
Can you go back to that last slide? Sorry, we made you go backwards.
No worries, no worries, we can do this.
Well, the key elements there are, the first one is the RFP. Moving an RFP forward, is an important part of this process. It's the part that keeps this thing moving. We've had starts and stops with that along the way. I think it's more important now than ever to get a consultant on board and to move this forward with the county and the city. The part about staff and task force moving forward with the zoning resolutions, that's something that we've got to do, but it's better to do it in parallel with the consultant if at all possible, because they interrelate. The land use and the zoning interrelates a lot. And then, so I think those two probably go together. But the transportation study is a separate element, and I'm going to break that out. So it is a separate element from the task force, but it's something that's critical now. There's some funding and grants that are potentially available or coming available. I think it's an important element because it will help each of those areas develop economically more so than if it's not there. So the sooner that can happen, the better. And I think our community would really support that as well, based on comments that we've had on the comprehensive plans.
Who are you thinking is going to prepare that letter? Are you going to get with?
I think there's separate letters from different entities. So there probably is a letter from the North Regional, but there's also, I think, a letter that should be coming from the county, a letter from the city, and a letter from the town. And then I think we take a look at letters that might come from other higher level representatives. A senator, congressman.
And that one also lends itself toward other things that are already going on. People are already talking about another penny sales tax for transportation, good, bad, or ugly, you know? But I mean, that would fit into that.
Yeah, and that would be
So
great.
I think that should be separate, yeah.
Right, and I think that for the next step for this group, I think is I feel like it's a motion for somebody to create the framework for what this transportation study would be. So then that framework can send to the different entities to see if they're willing to write a letter of support. So saying that, I'll turn that into a motion and say I'm making a motion that the framework for the transportation study be laid out, and then that be forwarded to the different entities to see if they'll support and create a letter in support of that. So that's my motion.
I'll second it. Now, let me just make sure I understand your motion. One of the things, I'll make a comment, that Dana Beach with the Coastal Conservation said to me some years ago that transportation was very crucial, and it was important for us to make sure that we plan for it and not wait until things happen like in Charleston where they're backlog with transportation right now. So what I see here, and I appreciate the committee being forward-thinking on where things should flow. And so I want really to look at all of that, and if nothing else, make sure we put the concept in place. We may not do that for another 50 years, but at least the framework is already established. This is how traffic will flow.
Yeah, and I think that's happening a lot in the penny. That's going to happen a lot when the penny thing. I think for this one, York, what I'm thinking is the framework should be, it should state specifically around a trolley system in the areas that we talked about. We really need to lay out that framework and say that we want to build a trolley system. You know, we're calling it the loop. The inner loop is a 9-mile loop. The outer loop, which I think is important, going, 170 Paris Island Gateway is a
But I-
14-mile loop.
Yeah.
So if somebody can lay that out, then I think the entities would then be willing to write a letter of support in that.
And I'm with you.
So
on that.
we're on board on the same
I was
thing,
saying
right?
the same
Yeah, I
thing you
think
just
we
said. But I will also want to make sure that what Greenway just said a few minutes ago is also included in that concept too.
Right.
With a ferry system.
Yes.
So outlining that sort of potential, not saying where it would happen, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you're talking about two separate elements, but they are interrelated. So I think something talking about the ferry system being a part of this, but not,
Right, I mean, it
they're
could be
two
as simple
different
as a statement
entities.
of that they'll stop will include
Yeah.
a place for ferries to disembark and to get onto, those kind of things. I think that's important, but I think we really got to get that framework, what we're asking for, and then then the letters can easily follow behind that. And I think, CB, Stephanie, they're the right ones to write that framework. They've done it, they did it south of the Broad. They probably have some sort of a template that they could use to lay out what a trolley framework would be, and then we could write the letter of supports behind that. So, my motion, and we got a good second on that.
I thought I did just a second.
Yeah, we did. I said we got a good second on that one, so.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And motion related, that motion was for the letter.
Right.
Now, any discussion or motion for the moving forward with the consultant RFP?
And the task force.
I
Together.
think those are definitely combined.
Those two
Correct.
together. What kind of motion do we don't know, we have no, we're not funded. We have no right, but we can recommend. So I think
Yes.
this would be a recommendation.
Yes.
Type motion.
Correct.
To look at the consultant RFP and the task force zoning resolution. I'll make that as a recommendation to go forward to the city of Beaufort and the county. I'm not sure at this point, the town of Port Royal,
I think they should be included.
it'd be included for comments, but yeah, not necessarily.
We can be included for comment, but as far as my statement on funding again, if you focused into that box of the
It's
Ladies
just gonna
Island
be-
Center. If it was bigger and taking in, our corridor or the base of the bridge, then that would be a different scenario in that, but this is just on the zoning.
And we have to do that.
Yeah, so that one's coming, it's coming in a different way.
We gotta do that and stuff, yeah.
So,
And it may be the RFP gets changed after,
and if it does, then we're more than willing to.
it's a trial balloon, so.
Right.
Okay.
I make that motion as a recommendation to the city of Beaufort, town of Port Royal, and Beaufort County.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Discussion.
Aye.
Rob, did you try to say something at the last minute there?
Well, having watched this for the last 2 years, it all comes down to the commitment to funding. And I think we're looking at something, I don't know if we're talking about several $100,000, several $100,000.
Several $100, we got it, baby.
I guess the thing is that we will proceed with the RFP, with the draft RFP, and then use that as a vehicle to approach the individual local governments and
See what happens, yeah.
That's exactly the way it should be done. We don't even know, we gotta figure out what it's gonna cost first.
Okay.
But I think the concept is what this group is
Yes,
agreeing with.
that's
The
what we're-
concept needs to move. That's the right way to get this to the next step, and now we gotta figure out the funding sources along with that.
Yep.
And I think both the city and the county are committed to do funding. It's just, what is the cost, total cost, that is important here to make that final decision. So I have a motion and a second.
And we already voted.
And we already voted, so, okay, we're done.
Don't do a revote.
Yeah, we're done.
Never do a revote.
All right, the next thing we have on are the action item list. Now, I went through the action item list, and there's a lot that have kind of gone by the wayside here just because the last 5 months things have been completed. So I don't want to take them off unless the committee believes that we ought to take them off, because there's different people from the committee that have put these things on. So let me run through them real quick, and we'll just say leave them on or take them off. The first one is the mandate for the NRPIC, and Alice, you've kind of headed that up. Do you want to leave that on, take it off, or are we going to just stay with what we've got?
Leave it on. I don't know that, I don't know. Ed, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think we need to leave it on. The completion of the consideration on the regional growth boundary is kind of tied up with that.
So let's leave it on.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Local options, sales tax discussions,
Gone.
gone. We already did that. The uniform yard waste policy,
We need to leave that on.
okay.
Yeah. Who had that one? Each.
Eric was
Oh,
doing
that's
that.
right.
Future areas, unincorporated areas for curbside pickup,
We need to leave that on.
Leave it, yeah.
okay. Regional stormwater sea level rise, we've been through that and we're having additional discussions on that. So I guess that might just be a report of where we are with that. Pathways we've completed, Rob, I think.
Yes, we got, that was adopted at the same time as the comprehensive plan last council meeting.
I think it's been incorporated into the town's comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
I think all of the cities have done it, right? I think
Yeah,
everybody.
we're in varying stages. You know, I think Juliana met with one of the committees of Hilton Head, so we're advancing forward.
Good, good, so it can come off.
The plastic bag issue,
We want to keep that on there.
okay.
I brought it up during our retreat, so we just got to decide when we're going to look at that again for more enforcement.
Okay,
And it needs some, we skipped convenience centers. That should be-
we had taken that off
Oh,
before.
okay, it's showing up on this one, okay.
Well, it's
Talk
grayed
rate is
out.
off.
Yeah, it's off.
Yeah.
Oh, that means off, okay.
Okay.
All right, but no, we need to leave the plastic bag recycling on there.
Okay. And number 10, the regional community parks, Rob, we've taken care of that one, I think.
We have a consolidated list.
Right.
But, you know, I think the next question, I think there's always been discussion about coordination or identifying parks that have shared county municipal interest, but
Okay, we have the list. This probably needs to be reworded then, and maybe if you can tell me what you might like rewording of that as to what it should be.
okay.
I guess that's maintenance agreements and other things. Is that
Well,
part of the issue?
most of those concepts came from this group, you know, not from staff. I know that the former mayor of Beaufort was very interested in kind of looking at this regional park and issue and cooperation on facilities that had, you know, served regional interests.
Yes.
Separate is.
Okay.
I think it should stay on,
Yeah.
you know, because we're still doing the recreation study.
Yes, yeah.
So that's,
Yeah,
And
that we have
completed
public
yet, so
meetings for that pretty soon.
hopefully that'll address some of
Recreation
those
plan. So,
concerns and stuff. We'll see.
yeah,
For our clarification, boat landings are a separate issue from this.
all right.
Well, they're separate, but we
Studies.
do, in that consolidated list, we listed all boat landings. And so, I mean, as we've learned, we have some coordination issues with that as well.
But that's being looked at separately.
It's a separate study.
Right, so there's a study and that's going on, so what we're talking about now is everything but boat landings. What's the next step with that?
you mean the recreation study the county's doing?
Yeah, I just trying to figure out what this is on our list. Trying to define what this is on our list. What is it that what is it that we would like to offer staff, both municipal and county staff on this, with this list?
Yeah, I think if you put parks and boat landing, make it clear, I think that's probably what we want to do. Because it's two separate issues as far as I'm concerned, but we are talking about boat landing, we are talking about the one in Port Royal.
I know you are.
You know?
That's why we're saying, because everybody uses that one, not just Port Royal people.
Yeah, and
I
we
think
talk
you're
about
right.
ownership and
No.
everything else too.
I understand.
Okay.
You're right, they need to be
And I
separate.
know y'all been
Yeah. We can
handling a lot of
separate them
stuff
out.
over the years.
Yeah.
Let's do
Right.
that.
Okay.
Let's split this into,
So I'm-
split this into two, one being parks, facilities, one being boat landings. And I guess really the update is where, maybe a presentation to this group on where where they are.
And there will be
What's
some
that?
public.
Does that make sense, Rob?
Yes, because
So, December maybe, so, county,
January.
right? That's
oh,
what,
kind of an update of where that study is going.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I'm going to add a boat landings as another item then, and leave this one as the parks,
Boat
Right.
landing.
because they may separate themselves.
Okay.
Mike got a quick question.
Okay.
All these action items, they kind of run the gamut. So to modify the list, is that yearly thing or throughout the year?
It's a yearly
And
thing.
is it the same for adding and removal?
Yeah, this board would add to that, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Thank you so much.
The fire service, I don't think there's been any movement, so I guess it just kind of hangs on there.
Yeah, please, in the rural community, yeah, that's fire
Okay.
service as well as water, but that's down below.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
down below.
Okay.
The direction of growth with the master plans. I think we're having ongoing discussions about growth boundaries, but there's a secondary element of direction of growth. And I think that the staff had been working with their comprehensive plans on what they individually wanted to try to do or accomplish. So I think maybe, do we leave that on?
Well, the comp plans are all they've been approved or they're about to be approved.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
Need that. Unless you
We
want,
can probably take that off.
Yeah, the only thing I could see in the Northern Regional Plan, and of course that was adopted in 2007, that, there were two components of it. One was the growth boundary map that said where the municipalities would grow to, the rule of the county, and the municipalities within and outside the growth boundaries. But there was also an agreed upon regional future land use map. And, so the county, we have a future land use map that applies not only to unincorporated county, but to the municipalities as well. We try to kind of approximate what's going on inside the municipalities and kind of show the relation of what we're anticipating outside the municipalities. So there's a possibility we could take, like what the county has in its work with the city and the town and just kind of make sure we're all on the same page. And the reason I bring that up is that we've had a rezoning recently. It went to Metro at the Monday meeting, just outside of Habersham and Cherokee Farms. And it's probably at least 20 parcels from any kind of contiguity annexation, and so what do we do in a case like that? I mean, I think that they have a right to petition for an upzoning, but if having that agreed upon kind of future land use framework, then the county, if there's simply no option to annex, could we work through that agreed upon framework when we consider upzonings? Still going through the mechanisms of coordination and going through Metro. So, I mean, that might be one way to kind of move forward with this concept of the direction of growth.
well, I think just like the last thing that came before Metro this month, having that conversation between the city and the county and the town about any of those areas is probably important to have, and then start making decisions about how that each one individually moves forward.
I think that's important for me, particularly when it relates to this city. So, yeah, we need to keep that communication going on. Yeah.
Next item, workforce, go ahead.
Can I offer a comment, just a thought on keeping the comprehensive plans on the list? I know we don't have anyone from the town of Yemassee present today, but they are in the early stages of adopting a comprehensive plan update as well, and having it there and encouraging their participation in this group might be helpful to keep it on the list.
So would you combine that one with the comprehensive plan? Would you combine 13 and 17?
I'm gonna Rob to see what his thoughts, because it's got a little bit of a thought on.
Yeah, this is sort of the next step. I mean, the comprehensive plans are living documents, and so if we're able to take our 4 future land use maps and kind of figure out how they all work together, and come up with a consolidated.
And that's the direction of growth, so I think we could say that these two on this list could be combined.
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
That's a good
Wrapping
idea.
up one end of it.
That's the
That's
key.
a good idea.
So really, we're defining that now as taking all the recently adopted comprehensive plan and bringing that together into a direction of growth that's gonna happen because of those plans.
And maybe add the words future land use plans?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so we keep it focused.
So that's 13 to 17.
Yeah.
Into a kind of a future land.
I just want to ask a question. Is the county still talking to Yemassee City? I attended a meeting several months ago, and when they first was talking about annexing into the county. Are they still talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been meeting with their staff and trying to work with them as much as possible, and they've been reaching out to us because they're understaffed when they start getting these development plans, and so we've been helping them as well. But we're hoping, and in our comprehensive plan, we kind of work with them to start to try to define, well, they've annexed Bendon and 2 other large pieces of land. What is the extent that they anticipate growing so that we can kind of work with them on that?
Are they still trying to become part of Beaufort? Do you know? Is that, that's what I was
That's
wondering.
initially what they were talking about.
It wasn't on the
We were concerned.
Weeks ago. It wasn't a referendum.
We were concerned because of the schools.
Oh, that, yeah, because that would definitely impact the schools.
I hadn't heard anything at all. It would have had to be on the referendum, so they're not there yet, if they're gonna do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It's a long
I think it would have
process.
to be, all of Hampton and all of Beaufort would have to take part in that referendum.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My understanding is they have to raise approximately $250,000 and send it to Columbia and then pass the referendum. And at this point, they've been unable to raise the funds.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Great suggestion, Joe. We'll go ahead and combine those.
I think it was Alice, yes.
Allison and Joe. Always like to share the.
Never care who takes credit.
Right, we
Never
defined it together. There we go.
Okay, workforce development. I think this committee probably ought to continue to hear those things. Any other discussion about that? Okay. Rural community fire protection.
Both of those, 15 and 16 should stay on. I think it's work in progress right now, and I think hopefully it can be resolved with some of the infrastructure funds that are coming down the pipeline.
Is that something that you could give us an update on both of those in our next meeting next month?
I can work toward that end. We're looking at, on St. Helena rural areas and Sheldon rural areas, providing water and also, I said rural areas, Seabrook as well.
Yeah.
Because there is no fire hydrants out there, and that's going to be the key to fire safety. Houses are going up, and without the water, all they can do is watch it burn down. So if there's a possibility of getting funding from the infrastructure money to do water, we want to take advantage of that. There are pockets on St. Helena that are missing, and we want to fill those pockets and provide fire hydrants for the community and stuff. So, yeah, that's the fire protection.
Okay,
We got good fire service on St. Helena, Ladies Island. There are areas that we don't have fire hydrants, and we need that for good water, for good fire protection.
So maybe 15 and 16 could be combined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we talk about the same thing.
Yeah, we'll
We do
combine,
public water, but we also talk about fire protection because of the water access.
we'll combine those two, and then next month you can maybe give us an update.
What I can do, particularly for the Ladies Island, St. Helena, is talk about those areas because Chief Klein has been very instrumental in moving forward. I just need to make sure that we can have Bert and Sheldon give us an update on where things are.
If you think you're going to talk about that, I think it'd be polite to invite the Water Authority to hear that conversation. So I think you should reach out to Buford Jasper and let them join us at that meeting and hear the conversation. Because ultimately nothing's going to get done unless they're on board. We got to get them on board. Got what you're saying, York. I got what you're saying. I got your reaction, buddy. Got your reaction there. But I think it's just to start the conversation that they know that it's being talked about at this level, which means it's a community importance in that way, and just so that they know what's being discussed.
So I've been having some conversations with folks out in the Seabrook area, specifically Stewart Point area, and actually the folks from Buford Jasper brought to my attention that that was mentioned in the Beaufort County Comprehensive Plan. So to let me know that there may be an effort on a larger scale, as opposed to just having the community bear the burden of all that cost. So I think it's already on their radar. Maybe you just follow up, keep it hot.
Several years ago, they tried to get CDBG money for Seabrook area, and they were unsuccessful, but probably time to try again.
Yeah, I'm inclusive of all north of the Broad as well as the St. Helena area. Well, primarily in St. Helena is just pockets to be dealt with and stuff. Yeah.
Well, the concern is that they feel that it's the price to tap onto water, because water goes up to the school, the elementary school, and then it goes up to the high school and the middle school. But the fee to tap on, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That, if we got infrastructure money, public water, that will help with
help to offset the cost. Yeah.
And just take advantage of that moving forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to add something. While I certainly understand the concerns about water when it comes to fire service, I also think it's important to keep in mind that when you run water and sewer or water to a region, it generally spurs development. And so in the Seabrook or St. Helena areas, if you're looking for more development, putting water lines into those areas is a good way to do that. If you're trying to limit development, not putting water in there is a good way to do that.
Well, I think it's wastewater is the biggest concern. I would disagree. I think it's wastewater.
And we have very specific policies about sewer extensions in rural areas, but water, I think we've always seen as a public health issue.
Right.
Yeah, Steve, I made sure that I said water, not sewer. Yeah, so.
Any further discussion? Okay, so we're going to add.
I'm setting up my hands on that conversation.
Buford Jasper Water to our invite list for the next meeting. And
You gonna reach out to them, or you want me to reach out to them?
well, you go ahead, but they're going to be copied on the.
Gotcha. Right. That's gonna be when?
Next month.
January's the next scheduled meeting, January 28th.
January 28th. That's good enough time.
January.
Okay. But now.
Yeah, it's actually. Yeah. All the meetings. Yeah, that here. Right there. Okay, moving forward, we have the 2022 calendar, meeting dates. Anybody got heartburn on any of those dates?
When is Easter? I'm just, I don't want to meet on Good Friday.
Okay, let's see.
Anybody got it?
And don't
Jerry
believe
looks
it
like
is, I checked the calendar when I was doing this to make sure there weren't any holidays that was
Okay.
gonna be hitting, so I don't believe that it hits on this.
All right, it's in April, but I don't remember.
Blue Sunday's the 10th, Easter is the 17th.
Okay, so
We're good.
Friday is the 15th.
okay.
We're good.
We're good, thank you.
Okay.
Well, is that Heritage?
It's probably 11th through the, yeah, it's probably 11th through the 15th.
Before Easter.
Right.
Okay.
Do you need a motion to approve these dates?
Yes, I do.
Everybody okay? Who is that? Is that Melina?
Yeah.
I make a motion, we approve the 2022 meeting schedule.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Say aye. Anybody opposed?
Well,
No.
he brought some, we're lefties. Lefties raise their hand. Lefties raise their left hand.
Your right hand, right?
I'm left-handed. I'm raising my right hand. It's my left hand.
Any roundtable comments? Anybody have anything they want to put on table?
Yeah, quorum. Thank you.
That's the form.
It's the first time we've voted in 5 months.
Let's keep this quorum going. Got a lot done.
I would just like to say that groundbreaking for Robert Small's new high school will be December the 7th.
New high school or middle school?
New high school. I mean, a new middle school.
Okay.
That would be on the 7th of December. There.
The 7th of December.
The district will set up the time sometime in the next week or so.
Will they tear the old school down?
But once they build the new one, they're gonna take it over.
All in the same area? Okay.
And I want to thank you for being able to meet with us too. I think it's really important to have school representation here because you're affected by everybody here and vice versa.
I guess there's a new mayor in Yamasee, so we can see if we can't get Yamasee to join us again, right?
Yeah, we need to change that on our contact list.
Yeah, because there's a new mayor in Yamasee, so we'll see if we can get, I know Matt's normally involved, and we'll see if we can get the new mayor to join us down here. So maybe I'll reach out to Matt and the new mayor and see.
Yeah, I think Matt just is very busy, very overwhelmed.
A little bit of a one-man show.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Everybody? Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.